There's my slides. All right, we're doing Thanos' guide to SEO for car dealers. And like he said, my name's Greg. I speak at conferences outside of automotive a lot. In fact, I speak at more conferences outside of automotive. When COVID hit in 2020, even though it was only March, when all live events got shut down, I already had 28 conferences booked in 8 different countries. Now, that's not to brag, that's to set up a joke. But before I get into that, I have a weekly video series called Local Search Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, it's a short 3 to 5 minute clip on video of digital marketing tips, mostly SEO and paid search. You can see it right there. I don't ask for lead information. It's free information to help you. It's on a lot of different places. Check it out. But anyway, back to the speaking thing. I'm lucky enough that I get to go all over the world. In fact, this year, I come back from NADA on Sunday night, and I turn around Monday morning and fly to Germany to keynote the largest digital marketing conference in Europe. And I see a lot of really bad speakers at some of these digital marketing events because it's these guys that are big eggheads. They know a lot of stuff about paid search and about SEO, but they're not good at public speaking. So typically, it's gonna be a guy standing behind a podium the whole time. Or it could be a girl, not gonna be gender specific, but somebody's gonna stand behind, and usually the slides are behind them, so they're gonna stand like this for most of the presentation. So you see the back of their head, and they're reading their own slides because they don't even remember what it is that they were talking about. And that's not fun for anybody. It's not fun to watch. And even worse, most of the time these people don't have any design skills. So the background of the slide is gonna be solid white, it's gonna be black Arial font, and every slide is gonna be packed with bullet points, and all they do is read their bullet points, and that's no fun for anybody. So I firmly believe that bullet points kill kittens, and today's presentation will be entirely kitten safe. And for everybody that hasn't seen me speak before, there is always a movie theme. I was a film major in college. I'm ridiculously obsessed with movies. I have a full sleeve of movie portrait tattoos. My entire right leg is sleeved up with Goonies tattoos, and I've started working on my left-hand sleeve too. So I always like to share my love of movies when I share my love of digital marketing. So we always have a theme, and usually it's like all comedy movies or all horror movies or all sci-fi. But you know, this is the automotive end game, and so I had to go with the theme, and so today we've got Marvel. So in today's presentation, we have 99 references to different Marvel properties. I have every live action Marvel thing that's ever been on TV or in movies. And I have a lot of the cartoons. I know there's gonna be some obscure stuff. You're gonna wanna laugh at all the Marvel stuff from the 70s because like we've got Doctor Strange with a fro, like it's really funny. So there's stuff to the side so you can see what it is if you're curious. And the really cool thing I wanna point out, once I get past the little jokey stuff at the beginning that I always do, the first set of movies is all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in the order that you should watch them. So not the order they were released, but chronological order of the Marvel timeline. So are you guys pumped? Are we ready? So we're here today to talk about SEO. And I know a lot of times it's really confusing and there's so much going on, it might feel like you're kind of going crazy. You need to get put in that padded room, right? And a lot of that time, you're really confused when you're talking about SEO because when you're looking at the search results, you're spending so much time looking up at competitors that rank higher. And you don't understand why these other dealerships can do better. And you start talking to vendors about how can I do better? What can I do for SEO? And the vendors start spouting off all this stuff that doesn't make sense. And it ends up making SEO sound like it's a bunch of voodoo, a bunch of magic, and you don't know what's going on. But in reality, it's not really a bunch of voodoo and magic. It's a lot of really solid stuff. And they asked for these slides so long ago, I honestly don't remember what the next joke is, so I'm gonna have to skip ahead. Oh, man, I blew that one. That was the funniest one. So today I got a lot of hot tips for you to show you how SEO works, right? So eventually, after today's presentation, and you start implementing this stuff, all of your sites will kick ass. For those of you that haven't seen it, that's the movie Kick Ass, so that's a funny joke. So we're here today to talk about SEO, but we have to talk about COVID and how that's affected things. In fact, we had COVID. We didn't think it was gonna last this long. Then we had the chip shortage that came from COVID. Now we're looking at an aluminum shortage and all this other stuff that's affecting what kind of traffic we can get to our sites, what kind of inventory we have to be able to sell to customers, and so stuff's been pretty crazy, right? So I decided to graph this out. I said, hey, let's graph out what the traffic looked like for our websites. Started coming off COVID, we think we're gonna be better, and now shit's all over the place, right? And because of this, SEO is more important than it has ever been before in the automotive industry. More than we have ever needed SEO, everybody needs to be doing SEO. You have to get found in searches. A lot of dealers are stopping SEO right now. A lot of dealers are saying, hey, look, man, we don't have any inventory. We don't need to do SEO. We're making money hand over fist. We don't need SEO. But what happens when you do have inventory again. If you stop doing SEO now, you start dropping. And then you got to fight uphill battle. And your competitors that are still doing SEO through this are going to kick your ass because now you're going to have to spend even longer to overtake them. And SEO isn't just about advertising the cars that you have. It's not about that because you do a lot of stuff besides selling cars. And SEO needs to address all of that. Another thing, everybody always has a handful of keywords, 4 or 5 keywords, and all you care about is, do I show up for Ford dealer Dallas? Do I show up for Jeep dealer Chicago? Rank tracking is inherently flawed. And to point out too, this is one of my videos. I have a whole video. So to be able to squeeze in even more information for you guys today, for specific topics, I list a video. There's always a little video thumbnail so you see that that's gonna be a video. If you wanna learn more, you can go watch those videos. If you're writing notes in the little notebook and you're somebody that writes in all capitals, make sure you write these in lowercase because you have to type them in lowercase, they're case sensitive. The problem with rank tracking is humans see something different than what computers see. And that rank tracking software that you're using is trying to approximate location because it's a server farm, God knows where. A human searching on a laptop or a phone in a physical location is gonna have that location influence their search results, and that rank tracker doesn't show that. The other problem is 20% of the searches that occur on a daily basis are phrases that have never been entered to Google before. You're gonna care about 5 or 6 phrases that you think are the important things to rank for, and honestly, those 5 or 6 phrases don't mean jack squat to your bottom line. So stop worrying about how you rank. SEO success doesn't mean you're ranking, it means you're getting more traffic and getting more leads. You don't hire someone to do SEO, whether you're hiring someone in-house or whether you're hiring a vendor partner to work with. You don't hire them to get you to rank for stuff. That's a vanity metric. Who cares? You're hiring somebody to do your digital marketing because you want to sell more shit. That's what matters, the leads and the traffic. I'm going to go on a rant here. Do you guys care if I go on a rant for a minute? The OEM-approved system of digital marketing vendors, automotive is the only vertical in the world that has some system where somebody tells you what you're allowed to use for SEO or for PPC. And it is not in your best interest. In fact, you want to avoid it like the plague. I couldn't talk about this shit before because when I worked at Dealeron, we were in the program and I wasn't allowed to trash it even though I knew it was a piece of shit. I'm going to walk through some problems with this system. First of all, once you get in, if I was going to go get approved for Ford or Stellantis, there's a whole rigmarole you have to go through to even get approved to be in the program. Once you're in the program, you can't change your offerings. You submit those packages and you're locked into those packages, and it is a massive pain in the ass to change anything. But Google updates stuff, so you need to change your strategy. In fact, last year, Google released over 3,000 updates to the algorithm. So somebody that's been in the program for 5 years is using the same strategies and tactics they were using 5 years ago. That's not gonna help your dealership. The next one, anybody that wants to sign up gets to sign up. They don't even have to do a demo. They can go, oh man, I'm getting my website from Dealer Inspire and they're on the list, cool, I want SEO from them too. The problem is, because anybody can sign up, you end up in bigger markets like Chicago, Dallas, Denver, LA, whatever, where you've got 15, I was talking to somebody earlier that has 15 Stellantis dealers in a really small radius. It's highly likely that one vendor is doing SEO for more than half of them. And how does that work? Because there's only really 5 or 6 spots on page 1 that a dealership can show up in. You don't want your digital marketing person doing digital marketing for your competitors because you're both paying them to beat each other. You can't both win. Then their teams are ridiculously overloaded. Dealer.com's teams for SEO have to work with 100 plus dealers a month. If they're working 40 hours a week, there's only 160 hours in the month for them to work. And that's if they're not having meetings or checking email or doing anything else. That means you're getting an hour a month of work. Most of the vendors are 50 plus. So you need to ask if you're working with the vendor or if you're interviewing new vendors, make sure you ask them, how many hours a month do I actually get? How many dealers does your team handle? Because that's a massive difference from one person to another. The other thing is, everybody gets the same packages. So everybody gets the same service, and there's a bunch of dealers in the room, but you guys are all different. Everybody's unique. You need your own stuff. And you're using the same strategy and tactics for every dealership, regardless of what they're selling or where they are. And a Kia dealer needs different strategies than a Mercedes dealer. So it doesn't make sense to be using the same stuff for both of those stores. Even worse, a Ford dealer in a market like Dallas, where there's 20 Ford dealers in the same market, needs vastly different strategy than a Ford dealer in Wyoming that doesn't have another Ford dealer for 200 miles in any direction. But if you're using an OEM-approved vendor, you get the same SEO package at both of those stores. You think that's going to help you? Does anybody think that's beneficial? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer, because anybody that said that, I'd kick you the hell out of here, because you're obviously not paying attention. You need a customized strategy. And one of the things that I always say is, if you're not going to hire someone internally at the dealership that's a full-time employee, you gotta work with a vendor partner. And that vendor partner needs to have a customized strategy to make a difference for you, or you're just burning money. And all those guys out there selling SEO for $500 a month or $1,000 a month, SEO is almost like an attorney. You're paying for time and knowledge. If you're paying $500 a month, you're getting less than an hour of work a month. That's not going to do anything for you. And Google has different algorithms. Google has the regular algorithm, and then it has the local algorithm. With the local algorithm, it's only going to display search results in a specific geographic area. And this is what I'm an expert in. You could talk to just about anybody out there outside of automotive, and even people inside of automotive, but talk to anybody out there in the digital marketing realm, and I'm regularly placed as one of the top 5 people in the world in this local algorithm. And that's the thing that I talk about at all these conferences all over the world. That means when you're doing SEO, it's a different kind of SEO. There are additional signals that matter to Google's local algorithm that traditional SEO doesn't pay attention to. So if you're getting SEO for most of these automotive vendors or the mom and pop shops that are in the same town as you, they're doing regular SEO, they're not doing local SEO. So a lot of the stuff that they're doing isn't really gonna help you. And all of these vendors are doing they call it SEO, but you ask them what local is, and they're like, yeah, we do Google My Business. But that's it. They're not paying attention to the strategy of how they optimize things. Local SEO doesn't mean you're just doing Google My Business. You're actually optimizing your site differently. You have a different content strategy for what you do. Now, there's overlap. If we're going to look at all the signals that matter between regular SEO and local SEO, it would kind of look like this. So if you're using one of those vendors, they're the yellow circle, and only the bit in green is the part that's helping your dealership. But if you're working with somebody, or if your internal person is doing local SEO, 100% of what they're doing is making a difference for your dealership's visibility. And here's why you need local. Take a couple of the keyword phrases you want to show up for. Do a search for those keyword phrases. If you see that map pack where it's the map and the 3 results used to be underneath, now they've moved it where the map is on the right and you've got the 3 results to the left, that's the clearest indicator that Google is using the local algorithm. Another way to do it is like this. I did a search just for Ford dealer. I did not put near me. I did not put a location. I just said Ford dealer, and I still got a map pack. Now, I did this several months ago, so it still had the map pack on top. But look, I just did Ford dealer, and it shows me the stuff in Dallas because that's where I was when I did the search. That's how you know the local algorithm is in play, and that's why you need to do local SEO. So what you need to do is pay attention to a study that happens every year called the Local Search Ranking Factor Study. They take the top about 40 experts worldwide in local search and send out a really in-depth survey, because nobody knows what's in Google's algorithm except Google. And even Google doesn't know, because machine learning will make changes that humans don't even know about. So the easiest way to understand what to do is to send out a survey like this and talk to these top experts that are doing this day in and day out and testing things here and testing things there, and know that if you turn up this dial here, you get a little more visibility. Because if I was to take 5 different really badass SEOs and put them all in a room and say, hey, go to the Dealer Synergy website and optimize the homepage of that website, all 5 of them are going to do it differently. But all 5 of them are going to touch the same elements on the page. So the tactics will be the same. The strategy will be slightly different. So if you take all of these 40 worldwide experts and then aggregate the answers, you get a pretty good gauge of what matters. So the 2021 version of this just came out in December. So really, when you're looking at the years, it's always the previous year of what the guide is. So the 2021 local search ranking factor results are the guide for what you need to be doing this year. You get 2 pie charts. The first pie chart shows you the signals that matter and influence your visibility if you're doing a search in Google Maps or if you're wanting to show up in that map pack. The other one shows you the signals that matter for showing up below the map pack in the localized organic. And notice they're different. The big green section here is Google My Business, or now Google Business Profiles, because they changed the name a few weeks back. The reason that's so large, when we're talking about Google Maps or we're talking about the map pack, real world location and proximity matter more, and that's where that section lives. When we go beyond the map pack and you're like in the regular organic listings that are still localized, notice the green section's way smaller and it's much more about the content and links. Before we dig in and explain what you need to do in all those areas, we need to talk about a big update that happened last summer called the Page Experience Update. Show of hands, who did hear about the Page Experience Update? One person, two people in the room have heard about this update. This was a major update. Updates in the past are penalty-based. If you have bad content, you get a penalty. If you have bad links, you get a penalty. This isn't a penalty-based update. This was an update that was all about what it's like to use a website on one of these. That's why it's called an experience update. You're not getting penalized, but you're getting benefits for doing the right things. Again, because of time, I'm not going to dig into this, but there's a video that I did right there. It's about a 6-minute long video that walks through all of the elements there. Core Web Vitals were included. I'm sure you've heard of that. They've been around for a while. That's largest contentful paint, how long it takes to render the biggest element on the page, how quickly your page loads, does the page shift around, and other experience signals. One of the most important things was that you need to be on a responsive website. It's all about mobile, so that's why responsive is so important. Most people out there are designing websites for what it looks like on desktop, and they know, hey, it's responsive, it'll look okay on mobile too. That's actually the wrong way to think about it. You should be thinking about what it looks like on mobile first. But responsive is really important, which means the technology behind your site is massively important to how you're going to show up in searches. Which also means, now that I'm allowed to not have to play nice, everybody that's on dealer.com is fucked. Because dealer.com does not have responsive technology. Remember when we had Betamax versus BHS? Dealer.com chose Betamax and they dug their heels in the sand and they refused to switch. They have what's called adaptive technology. That is not Google friendly now. In fact, I'm gonna prove that to you. For everybody that doesn't believe me, I have proof. I had a dealer group that had sites on multiple platforms, and someone at the group level said, this is way too complex. Let's get all of our stores on the same website platform so it's easier for us to only have to know one platform across all the stores. But they had a Subaru site, and Subaru can only be on dealer.com, so they said, let's just switch everybody to dealer.com. Now, Search Console, everybody should be familiar with Search Console, but the data in Search Console is very, very limited. By design, Google tries to fool you about a lot of things. We have a tool that was built specifically for us that uses an API to connect to it and get us way more data than what, because Google has the data, it's just not shared in Search Console. What you're about to see is a screen capture from our tool that is using Search Console impression data. So this is showing the phrases that these dealerships were showing up for before and then after the dealer.com switch. I'm not gonna show you yet, but the one on top was a Dealer Inspire site. The one on the bottom was a dealer on site. Let's see how many people can figure out when they switch to dealer.com. Now, we're doing SEO for these guys. So we did all the stuff you're supposed to do when you do a platform change. So the content was identical. We set up 301 redirects. We did everything we were supposed to do. But because dealer.com's technology sucks, they lost a ton of visibility. That's why it's important to pay attention. So now let's move on and talk about on-site signals, the content on your site and how it's optimized. Now, we know customers shop around. Nobody's gonna buy a car and go to Google and do a Google search and go, oh, that's the first website I saw, I'm buying from that guy, right? We know they shop around. In fact, data from Google, the most recent data says people will conduct 25 or 27 sessions before they submit a lead. Now, that doesn't mean they're gonna go to your site 27 times. That doesn't even mean they're gonna go to 27 dealerships. But in that buying process, they're gonna do 27 separate sessions before they buy. So we know they're looking at your competitors. So that means SEO isn't just about do you show up. SEO is about showing up and giving people a reason to remember you so you stand out from the crowd and giving them a reason to come back. And there's the awesome Doctor Strange with the fro. It's like crazy, right? Like how did they, it doesn't even look like the comics. Like what were they even thinking? But SEO shouldn't be, let me give you a bunch of content, cool, you got SEO. It's making you stand out, making you be better, making sure you're unique, right? If you've got the same generic crap that everybody else has, and they're shopping around and they're seeing your competitors and you look just like everybody else, why would they buy from you? Why would they care? Why would it matter? That's SEO's job, is to make you stand out and be better. Your content on your site should let everybody know, humans and Google, why you kick ass and why people should buy from you and not from your competitors. That's what's important. It needs to actually be about your dealership and about the local area. And so many people have the same generic boilerplate bullshit that the OEM gave to them or that their website provider gave to them, and they don't really update it other than they change the name of the dealership. So we like to do a test. This is a really easy test to do. Take the homepage content on your site. Change only the name of your dealership and only your city. And could you take that, let's say you've got a Ford dealership here in Philadelphia. Could you change the name of that dealership to a different name and change Philadelphia to Dallas and put that same homepage content on a Ford dealer site in Dallas? And would that content still make sense and work? If it's good content, it wouldn't work because you'd need to change more than the name of the dealership in the city. But for probably 95% of the dealers out there, they're gonna fail this test. Another important test. Your content should sound conversational. It should sound like something that you would say to a customer that just walked in the front door of the dealership. That's what Google wants to see. That's what customers want to see. So you read it out loud. And I'm not talking think through it in your head. I'm talking you're sitting at the dealership and you grab somebody. You're like, hey, Sean, help me out, buddy. I'm going to read this to you. Tell me if it sounds okay. Because then you catch the things that you don't see when you're reading. My favorite story, digital dealer like 7-8 years ago. This guy came up to me. He's like, yeah, man, I'm a Ford dealer in Dallas. And you keep saying that example. Can you help me out? I'd love to get your SEO. And I said, sure. Went back, looked at his website. And I shit you not. This isn't an exact quote because it was 5 or 6 years ago, but it's very close. His homepage content was something like this. If you want to buy a Ford pickup in Dallas, come to our Ford pickup headquarters, where we sell more Ford pickups than any other dealership in Dallas that sells Ford pickups. So when you're ready to buy your next Ford pickup, come to our Ford pickup headquarters, and we'll give you the best deal on Ford pickups of any dealer that sells Ford pickups in Dallas. And the guy at the dealership wrote that content and was like, holy shit, boss, we're going to rank for Ford pickups in Dallas. But every customer that went to that site was thinking, what the fuck is wrong with these guys? The other thing that people love to do, we serve customers in all these cities. Let's say Sean's right here. I'm going to pick on Sean. Let's say I'm the sales guy. I'm greeting Sean as he walks through the front door of the dealership, and you're the GM, and you're standing right behind me and listening to what's going on. And I'm going to use Dallas suburbs because that's where I'm from. And I'm like, hey, man, welcome to the dealership. Did you know I also serve customers in Dallas, Richardson, Plano, McKinney, Garland, the Colony? And I list off like 20 cities. I'd be fired on the spot. He doesn't care. He's already at the dealership. The customers that are on your site don't give a squat that you serve 25 other cities. And you're not going to rank in 25 other cities just because you listed them on your homepage. So that's when reading out loud catches this dumb shit that everybody does. A simple concept to keep in your head. If you want to show up as a search result when somebody types something into Google, then you need a page of content on your website about that concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that the searcher is asking. But it's not just about answering that one question. It's about answering that question and thinking about the subsequent questions that that person will have after that initial question gets answered. That's the good content that you should have. That's not the shitty content you're going to get from your OEM or from most of your website providers. Once you've written that content, you got to optimize it. For Google, I'm way behind. I'm going to go faster now. Sorry. I'm going to walk you through the page elements that you would need to optimize on every page of your site. So you can either do this yourself or hold your vendor accountable. First one, title tag. It's the most weighted SEO element on the page. It shows up in the little tab above where you type in your URL. It's also what populates your blue link if you show up as a search result in Google. Never put your dealership name first. You're the only dealership name that. You will always rank for that phrase if someone searches it. Don't waste valuable optimization space putting your name first. And across all of these elements I'm going to talk about, when it says keyword, it's the same keyword every time. Don't say used cars in one and pre-owned vehicles in another. It needs to be the same phrase every time. You also need your city and state abbreviation. So put it in the title tag first. Second most weighted element, your H1 heading. That's the big, thick headline above your text area. You should only have one H1 on the page. If you're on Dealery Process or dealer.com, make sure you check this because they'll usually put 5 or 6 on the page because they don't know how to do SEO. It should be a little more conversational, have the same keyword, and have your location information. If you wrote the awesome content I talked about, you shouldn't have to do much to your page content. It will already be there. Most of the platforms out there, in fact, all of them in automotive, let you set custom URLs for your individual pages, so include those keywords there. Great example, most of your used car pages out of the box are going to be domain.com/search used. all one word, or search pre-owned, all one word. You'd be much better off with dealership.com/use-cars-dallas-tx. Image alt text is a huge one. Years ago, there's probably people in this room that saw me speak like 10 years ago, and I would say, oh, you gotta do image alt text because Google can't tell what's in your images. Now Google can tell what's in your images with machine learning. We could go down a rabbit hole. That shit's fucking scary. Go look it up sometime. But alt text is still part of the algorithm, and most people don't do anything with it. So you can really outpace competitors. Plus, it's an ADA compliance issue. Your dealership can get sued by a blind person that is using, because, I mean, let's talk to LA. When you get on the internet, what do you use? Use a browser that reads the site, right? But that browser can't tell him what's in an image, but that browser will read the alt text of that image. ADA law says that every website has to be compliant for screen reading browsers. If you don't have alt text, you're out of compliance, and somebody blind can sue your dealership for not having it, even though they can't buy a car. Or, I mean, they could buy a car, but they can't drive the car. Or they could get the motorcycle and drive around the parking lot and go crazy, right? But it's really important. And then your meta description. Meta description is not part of the algorithm, but it populates those couple of gray sentences underneath your blue link when you show up in Google. So approach it like an ad, write something compelling, have the same keywords. Also, when you're optimizing, make sure you're optimizing for the way that customers actually search. We have a lot of jargon that we use in automotive. If I said VDP, is anybody in here confused? Anybody? Raise your hand. I will heckle the shit out of you, but go ahead and raise your hand. If I said, hey, I need another up today, does anybody not know what I mean by that? No, we all understand, right? Dealerships have all kinds of jargon that we all understand, but customers don't. We all love to say we sell pre-owned vehicles because it sounds nicer, but customers don't search for pre-owned vehicles. That's my favorite example. You should be optimizing for used cars, even though you don't like the way that sounds. I'm using Google data here. I am aggregating pre-owned, all one word, pre-space owned, and pre-dash owned. On a monthly basis, across the entire United States, there are 1,900 searches for those three terms. There's 823,000 searches for used cars. If you optimize your site for pre-owned vehicles, you're missing out on all of the traffic. Any Mercedes dealers in here? Nobody, or nobody's, they're all scared to be heckled. Mercedes sucks because Mercedes compliance says you can't say used cars, you have to say pre-owned vehicles. And then Mercedes dealers get pissed that they get their asses kicked in search, but Mercedes won't let them do it right. You also absolutely have to have a blog. It is not a luxury, it's a necessity for every dealership, which is also why dealer.com sucks, because every other platform gives you a blog, but dealer.com charges you more for it. It's really stupid. There's a real big difference between the kind of content that goes on your blog and the kind of content that goes on your site. The content that goes on your site is meant to drive leads, meant to drive business. Do not expect that you're gonna get leads from your blog content. That's not what it's there for. It's there for discovery. It's there for information. It's not there for revenue. Think of it like a billboard. You put that content out there so that you will show up for people that aren't looking to buy from you, so that they get exposure to your dealership so they're more likely to buy in the future. Make it a local destination. Talk about the local area. For the dealerships we work with, literally half of the content that we put on their blog has nothing to do with the dealership, and it's information about the local area. This stuff works. If you need ideas for what to do there because you're not familiar with that concept, or you want to go back and try to make the case that you should do it, I got a nifty little video there that walks you through 10 major kind of concepts you can use as like a springboard to come up with more stuff. Also, dealerships are always like, well, hey, I'm here, but I want to show up in this city. But Google is really biased towards your actual location. If you don't own your backyard first, if you do not dominate the search results in the town that your address is in, you have no chance of showing up better than competitors in other cities. So lock down your backyard first. Now we're gonna talk about links. I really gotta go faster. Links from other websites pointed to your dealership site are really important. They're really weighted. The problem is most people don't do it because it's tough. It used to be a numbers game, but now you have to get the right kind of links. They have to be relevant to your site to matter to Google. And most providers don't do it because it takes too much time. We did the roundtable earlier, and somebody was telling me that their current provider actually tried to explain that links don't matter because they don't want to do it because it's hard, but they really matter. And crappy directory links don't count. If you can fill out a form and get a link, that link doesn't matter. You really want to get links from local sites because we're talking about the local algorithm. So it doesn't have to have anything to do with automotive. Local relevancy is still relevancy, and it's really hard work and it's really time consuming. So that's when you need someone that is not your internet manager, your e-commerce manager, but it's an SEO person at the dealership. That's their full-time job. If you don't have that in place, you have to have a vendor because this is not something that you can kind of do here and there whenever you have time. Do all of the shit you used to do before we had the internet. All the stuff you did for community exposure is all the stuff that you should do now because it leads to really easy link building opportunities. In fact, I love talking to dealers because most of you, or hopefully everybody in here, is really philanthropic and you give back to the community. You're already involved in the community. You got to take the extra step to get the links out of that. If you want to learn more about it, because again, I'm trying to squeeze in shit and I'm going way too slow, I did a 2-hour presentation at Digital Dealer Vegas last fall, and the second half was mostly about links. You can see it right there at that link right there. So now let's talk about reviews real quick. Obviously, we all know they're important, but they're a big weighted part of the algorithm as well. So you have to be proactive. You got to make it easy for people to leave reviews, and you have to ask every single customer. Podium's great for this. And we didn't set up that we're right next to them. It just worked out that way. But Podium, people like that, they're awesome. They're proactive. You can't just expect that people are going to give you reviews. We like to set up a reviews page at dealership.com/reviews so everybody at the dealership knows where to send people. And it's got all the links that you need that point to your profiles. And it has a simple thank you message that says, thanks for leaving us, or thanks for doing business with us. Let us know how we did. Here's the cool thing. If a customer leaves important keywords in their review text, you're going to rank better for those keywords. But you can't tell customers what to write because that's against Google's rules and it can get you banned from Google, but you can pull Jedi mind shit, right? So on that page it says, thanks for doing business, here's our link. Also put stuff like, hey, if you're not sure what to write, give us more details about your experience. And notice the first question there, did you buy a new car or a used car? Everybody that bought a used car is gonna go, oh man, I came to this dealership, I bought a used car. Boom, you got the keyword, now you rank better for used cars. If you got a review from somebody that wasn't a customer, Google's probably not gonna remove it, especially if it's a 1-star review that has no text. Google will never remove that. So what you need to do is be strategic and write an awesome strategic response so that potential customers will see that that's a bullshit review and they won't pay attention. Again, don't have time, go watch the video. It's awesome. Now at the end, last thing we're talking about, Google Business Profiles, formerly called Google My Business. It's your new homepage. Remember when we first got websites, the big talk track was, it's your digital showroom. It's your first impression with customers. That's no longer the case. Now, it's your Google Business Profile. It has to be awesome. Make sure you fill out everything that you can fill out in there. Make sure that you have UTM tracking on your website link because Google Analytics is broken and a significant amount of the traffic of people that are coming to your site on one of these gets attributed as direct traffic in Google Analytics. You've probably been taught that direct traffic means they're using a bookmark or they're typing in your URL, right? That's not true. Direct traffic is Google going, I don't know where the hell this came from, I'm just gonna call it direct. So you want UTM tracking so that all the organic stuff is correctly attributed. You wanna put that string on the end of your website link. And notice, I've got GBP, you may have GMB, if that's what you already have, it's fine. A lot of people will set it up and say, source Google medium organic. That's wrong, because you wanna have it separate in Google Analytics at the top. He's walking up the stage, I'm almost out of time. I'll go really fast. Make sure you put it on every link that's in there. Make sure you have a local phone number, super important. Make sure that you put a tracking number in there. It's really important that that tracking number is a local area code phone number. Make sure you select the right categories. You've got 10 slots, you should have 10 listed. You also need to have strategic initiative on what you put as your primary category. Watch the video, it explains that. If you're not sure what to choose, I have a list of all the car dealer categories that you should be using, so pay attention to that. Make sure you have a separate Google Business Profile for service and for parts, and that they're listed as departments on your main listing. You can now list your inventory on your Google Business Profile, so make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're using Google Posts. There's a whole 15-minute video that I did that walks you through how to do that. Make sure you're paying attention to questions and answers. It's hugely important because anybody can ask a question and they think you're gonna answer, but any random person can answer it for you. People think that it's instant messaging, so they're expecting a quick answer, but it's really just community discussion. Ask your own frequent questions. Set up a pre-site FAQ and answer those questions, because when somebody's typing that question in, Google will auto-complete that question and give them an answer, and you're more likely to capture that customer. So, I have a scoring matrix. I'm happy to score all of your sites if you want. So the customized approach works. I'm gonna show you some quick shit. I'm out of time, but this was a Kia dealer that now is at a 1,300% traffic in 2 years during COVID. He started in January of 2020 with 4,000, and now he's over 60,000 visits a month. Here's a Chevy dealer that's like 400% now. He started out at 8,000 a month, and now he's over 36,000. Here's a Mazda dealer, 2,100, now he's up at 10 grand. Hopefully now you're not gonna be down about SEO. I know that was a big fire hose of information, but hopefully those hot tips
So good, man.
will help you guys out. And now you'll be the ones looking down at all the other dealerships in town, and everybody's gonna be happy, and it's gonna be an awesome year. Thank you. There's my contact info if you have questions.
Give it up for him, y'all.
Do you like the content? Well, if you want more, then you need to sign up for Bradley On Demand, the world's best virtual training platform in the entire automotive industry. With some of the top speakers, salespeople, and trainers, and almost 7,000 training modules. You will sell more cars more often and more profitably. So sign up now at www.bradleyondemand.com.